Alright guys, we're going to do a 4-cylinder piston engine. This is a fun project. So anyway, we're going to assemble the crankshaft, that is the horizontal bar. You can see there with the crank arms attached. Crank arms are attached to the 4 pistons, and you have the piston housing and then the crankshaft housing on the bottom. Alright, so let's go ahead and make sure you have a tab open for the pictures in your Google Classroom, so you can tab back and forth from Onshape to those. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and get started here. We got piston block is the gray block, and the crankshaft block is the tan block. So we're going to make sure we assemble all the pistons with a slider, and make sure you hit the top of the piston block, and repeat that 4 times. If you notice, when I move the piston, the entire block moves, so you make sure that you anchor that down. And make sure your pistons, once you move them around, you want to make sure that they're flush. The piston is flush with the top of the piston block. So if you notice the bottom right hand corner, I have the simulation. That's what it's going to look like before we put both sides of the crankshaft housing and the piston housing, or the front half of it. So, all right. So the bottom of the pistons, we're going to put in the axles, and those are the gray axles. We're going to put those in. You know, there's probably a smarter way to do this. If you were to actually fasten those in and then revolute those, or wait, let me see. You could revolute those and then fasten the crank arms onto there. That would make it easier for you to offset to center your pistons. But we're going to kind of forge ahead and get these on there. We're not going for 100% perfection here. The pistons will be the crank arms will be a little bit off center, but they're within the piston itself, so it's not really going to affect the function of the engine. And you'll see what I mean here in a few seconds. When you attach, so we got the axles inside the pistons. We're going to attach the crank arms to the bottom of the pistons, and we're going to be a little bit off center. You can adjust the offset. Or once again, make sure your pistons are flush with the top. Okay. So you have your crank arms, and those are going to be attached to the axles that are inside the pistons. And you know, if you want to, this would be your opportunity to do the offset. I'm going to go kind of a different route. I'm going to make these cylindrical. You could have put the piston axles on Revolute and then fastened the crank arms to the axle and then offset. So there's many ways to do this, but the way we're doing this right now is fine. They're going to be cylindrical around the axle, and that's fine as well. So the reason I use cylindrical and Revolute is if sometimes with OnShape, if you use Revolute too many times, they start maybe conflicting with each other, and then you start getting a red along the left hand side, and we're trying to avoid that, so that's why I chose cylindrical for this. So I got everything else on Revolute, so I'm going to put the bottoms, or the bottom connections, they're going to be on Revolute. And here is my first mistake. I chose the wrong side of the crank arm, and so yeah, I do the video and then I narrate my own video, and this is my mistake here, so I have to fix that. So yeah, I mean, looking back on the year, I think some of these projects we've done the last 2 weeks, I think I'm gonna lead out next year with these projects. Even though I enjoy the Lego bricks at the very beginning in August, I think I need to filter out some of the stuff we did. Even though it was fun, I think we can get into funner stuff a little bit like this a little bit earlier in the year, and then that'll give us more time for the fun stuff, the math, the mechanical advantage stuff that should have been more part of the school year, I do admit. But we didn't goof off. I mean, we did quite a bit of work. I think I can work in more math and make the math fun. That's what I'm trying to say. Alright, so we're going to connect those pistons together, or that last piston with the crank arm. There we go. Alright, we're making progress here. Now the crankshaft, that is the horizontal assembly there. This already comes assembled, and we're going to just position it somewhere below. We don't want to put it up there because we want to connect all of the crank arms with the Revolute, of course, Revolute to the crankshaft. And so you'll see that first mistake I make is I forget to anchor down my crankshaft, the horizontal assembly there, and you can see the effects of that. So first of all, get everything out of your way. The piston block there, that's in my way. So make sure your working space is free of clutter. Just move stuff to the side until you need it, and that'll make your day go a lot easier. Alright, so do the best you can to line it up, and we're going to attach those along the left hand edge of each of the crankshaft locations. So this would be a good time to anchor down your crankshaft, but I don't do it, and you'll see the devastating effects of what happens when we don't do that. And it goes wild, it goes crazy. So you can pull that down because you've got one piston attached. You can pull that down, but now you're going all over the place. So best advice is just to click on undo, put it back where you had it, and anchor it down this time. Alright, so that looks good. And so we're going to anchor this thing down. At this point, it doesn't really matter too much if you have it aligned vertically with the piston block, because once you attach the bottom half of this thing to the tan crankshaft block, then it'll line everything up vertically and horizontally. Alright, so we're going to attach anchor this thing down first. I'm not sure if I remember at this point. I think I repeat my same mistake. Yes, I'm going to make the same mistake. I forgot to anchor it down, so it's going to do some weird stuff again. I thought I learned from my first mistake. And it goes flying off into the left field there. So let's undo. Anchor it. Fix it. Bolt it down. Alright, revolute. So I think it would be nice to import this into the truck that everyone's working on from last week. Maybe actually put this engine into that truck, so you'll have an actual working engine. Then maybe figure out a way to have this engine drive the wheels. That would be nice. That would be really cool. Hook some gears up, transmission. Transmission with a rack and pinion. Yeah, that's an idea. Alright, so anyway. So you can see that your pistons are staying along the path of your first action, which was the slider connection. So it's doing what it's supposed to, and the arms are adjusting laterally and vertically to make sure that it's staying on the crankshaft, as well as the piston staying within the constraints of the path of the piston block. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to place that center onto the crankshaft block, and press solve. It'll drag all that stuff over there, and we're almost done. So what I'm going to do is manually adjust the top of that engine block. Both vertically and horizontally. I'm going to line it up. Of course, there's a more scientific way. You can grab the corners and fasten them, I just decided to move it myself, and I think I have it lined up left and right as well. Okay. Alright, so yeah, you can fix that in position, and that works the same as fixing it, as fastening the top and bottom together. As you saw, I just fixed the top, and so nothing's going to move except for the pistons and all that stuff. Alright, so we're going to simulate and look and see, is everything lined up the way it's supposed to be lined up, and the crankshaft is operating like a normal crankshaft. Crank arms are going vertically and laterally the way they should be. And so all I did is I right-clicked on one of the revolutes and I just animated. And then the end value I put in, you put in 5, 10, 15,000. And then put in the loop and press play. For some odd reason, you got to press play twice. Let's see, here we go. So we're going to put the top on, the bottom on, and we're going to turn on the translucent and translucent with edges, and you can see the outline profile of the engine as well as the inner parts function as well. All right. So I just first I pulled over there to see if it does visually connect, and this one I'm going to be more scientific on my attachments and actually click on the fasten tool and connect the edge. So then when we get the crankshaft block, want that on there too. Alright, so if you want to animate this thing, while you have the animation going, you can click on the different views over there on the right hand side, upper right hand side, the little shadow box. You can pick translucent or translucent with edges, and while that animation is playing, you can actually look at kind of an X-ray vision view of the engine, see how everything's working. So you got translucent and then translucent with edges. So if you pick translucent, you can see through it, and you can see how the pistons and the piston engines, or the piston and the piston crankshafts and crank arm and all that stuff are working together. Alright, so yeah, we are going to look at mechanical advantage. We'll look at ideal mechanical advantage, which is the measurement of your distance effort and distance resistance. Your distance effort is going to be the pistons themselves with the crank arms. That'll be your distance effort, and your distance resistance is going to be your crankshaft and diameters and the different positions of the crankshafts according to how they are synchronized with the pistons and everything. So we're going to look at distance, our ideal mechanical advantage. Not going to look at actual mechanical advantage because we don't actually have a measurement of the actual force.